Hello, and welcome to my podcast, Narcissist or Not. My name is Jessica, and I am a minister with the Church of Spiritualists, and I am also a human with lots of experience with narcissistic relationships, both professionally and personally. I would like to say before we get started, I am not a mental health professional, and nothing I say is meant to replace diagnosis, evaluation, or treatment from a licensed mental health professional. Everything I talk about here is based on my own experience and research, along with my experience gathered from counseling others through my role as a minister. With that said, let's get into it. There seems to be a common pattern with narcissistic individuals and the romantic partners they pick. A lot of people think it's the older narcissistic man with the younger woman, or the narcissistic woman with the man who's more sensitive and emotional. Maybe he has a strong hero drive, and these may seem like they lack a common thread. But the real thread is this. Narcissistic people always attach themselves to people who have unhealed trauma. This isn't a coincidence. It's not a mistake. They do this because unhealed people have wounds that aren't fully addressed yet. And the narcissist can use those injuries to abuse and control their supply more effectively. Even if you think you're healed, even if you think you've addressed all your childhood issues, you're confident in yourself, you think you have it all together, a narcissistic person will find the cracks. They will actually fool you into showing them where they are. They have a process that really works on people who have felt unseen, unheard, unloved, or anything like that throughout their childhood, or just in life in general. A lot of people think it starts with love bombing, but they miss a really important co-occurring process happening during that phase. I call it data collection. Love bombing isn't just a method to hook you, it's dual purpose. The other reason for love bombing is to make you feel comfortable, to make you feel like this person really cherishes you. They're going to keep you safe. You think they value you. During the start of your interaction, during the love bombing, they'll be so interested in you. They want to know everything. They want to know about your childhood all the way to now. Finally, someone wants to see you for who you are. You tell them the basics at first. You're careful. But then slowly you start revealing more. Maybe you laugh as you tell them that you once got the lead in a really silly school play in middle school. But your mom, she didn't show up. She was always working. Magically, they reveal that they too had a parent who never showed up for them. They even take it a step further and tell you that this really hurt them as a child. It even went into their adulthood and they struggled with feelings of abandonment. This is called mirroring. I'm sure if you're here, you've heard the term before, so I'm not going to really go into that. But in this example, they're picking up on your potential wound and they're expressing a similar vulnerability. This can be misunderstood as connecting. Sharing vulnerability is part of developing a healthy relationship. But this isn't the narcissist's reason for this. They're not connecting at all. They're hunting. They're looking for a hint of something they can place in their vault for later. Now, this vulnerability they share that just happens to relate to your own may be completely manufactured. It could be exaggerated or it could be true, but none of that matters. What matters is that you will feel empathy or sympathy, and as a decent human being, you'll feel the urge to comfort them, usually through reciprocation. So you admit you also struggled with abandonment issues. You fully understand your mom was a single mom. She had 3 jobs to keep food on the table. So you definitely understand why she couldn't be there. But it doesn't absolve you of the pain, not fully. And despite the frown and understanding face, the narcissist is cheering inside. Not only did they just get you to expose your abandonment wound, but you just gave them potential daddy issues and growing up in poverty. They essentially hit the jackpot. Now, I get a lot of pushback when I talk about this particular thing because a lot of people view narcissistic people as never being vulnerable. So vulnerability is often seen as a sign of someone not being a narcissist. If they're sharing sensitive information, you could use that against them. And my rebuttal is always the same thing. If they share a true vulnerability with you, if you get to that point, it's because they've already determined you aren't like them. They've already found out that you're a better person and that you would never use someone's pain against them to punish them or get a leg up. Someone showing vulnerability is not an accurate indicator of narcissism. What they do with your vulnerability is a more accurate measure. So they don't just save this data for later on. They usually utilize it right away, but in more positive ways. So say they start joining you for your yoga class. They want to hear your pitch before that big meeting and call them right after. Tell them how it went. They're showing up like mommy couldn't. And this is highly, highly effective. They're essentially connecting themselves to your wound like a leech and drawing as much benefit from it as they can. But really, think about this. They're joining your only additional activity outside of work. Yeah, it makes you feel good, but it makes them feel control. They're integrating into your individual spaces. Now they can collect data on your friends and assess which ones might be a threat. They can see how you interact. Is there someone you seem jealous of? Maybe a girl you would see as better than you? This is someone they can befriend later on to make you feel insecure. And when you bring it up, they're going to say that out loud and call you insecure, all while purposefully creating the very situation making you feel that way. They're acting interested in your advancement at work. They listen to you ramble endlessly about your job, your coworkers, and conflicts. You feel the most supported you've ever felt. But they're feeling empowered. Now they know where you feel weak. They know what bothers you and what they can use for themselves. They know how secure you are in your career. They wonder if they can make you quit or stunt your climb up the ladder. Or maybe if they can isolate you from coworkers by suggesting you're too involved in their lives. Work and professional should be kept separate after all. Remember the issue you had with Rob from accounting? He tried to get your number at the Christmas party. So it's really clear you're giving off the wrong impression with your friendliness. It's the most reliable thing about them. Just as soon as you feel totally safe and on track, something changes. Something feels off. The mask will slip a little enough for you to see eventually. Let's say you mention it. You've noticed their advice has become a little critical. It seems they're directing, not discussing anymore. And you want to know what happened. So you ask. And in true narcissistic fashion, they're going to deflect. Maybe they do apologize and say something like, wow, I've been under a lot of pressure at work and maybe I am being a jerk. I'm going to try to watch out for that from now on. That type of reaction is normally found in the early stages of a relationship. Later on, trust me, there's not going to be apologies, only deflection and blame shifting. But let's stick to this scenario. They apologize. That's good, right? Everything's okay? Well, usually not. If you pay really close attention, you're likely going to notice that right after being confronted, a narcissist will punish you. These can be micro punishments at the start. And this is still part of data collection for them. They're testing what methods of punishment work on you, how well they work, and then they will expand on that data the next time. This takes place while the love bombing is still occurring, but maybe not all the time now. Most of the time, the relationship has moved past the initial love bombing into the second phase where it's gone from consistent to cycling. It's not an ongoing behavior anymore. It's mostly earned as a reward system or when the narcissist is trying to pull you back in. So let's say they try out your abandonment wound. After they apologize, they may say something like, I think I need some time to myself to think about this. Or they may say nothing and just go ghost on you for longer than they have before. Then they gauge your reaction. For this one, let's just say they go ghost. And you give them space. You don't reach out. Chances are they'll reach out eventually. Going ghost doesn't trigger you. When they reach out, you respond naturally. You really are okay with them taking some time to reflect after this little tension. You want it fixed. You want this to work out, and healthy communication is important for that. Being overly critical of your partner isn't healthy communication. It's communication control. Depending on your particular narcissist, they may run this as a split test, or they may just retest later on with one of your other wounds. The next conversation, they may again be critical. And when you confront it, they may do something like claim their criticism is constructive. They may mention your absent father being the reason you never learned to accept constructive criticism. When you get upset by that, they're going to take notes. That wound works better. You obviously have a wound surrounding the absent father. But if they run the split test, they're going to want to use this failed test to train you to associate their actions with guilt. This is another way to blame shift for them. When you finally speak, they may ask why you didn't reach out to them and accuse you of being more upset than you're showing. They can tell you're upset, and if you'd only admit that, then things can go back to normal. They can get back on track. Being a decent human, maybe you take what they say into consideration. You examine yourself and try to figure if maybe they have a point. Maybe you've missed something deeper in your subconscious somewhere. But you search it and you find that their assessment just isn't true. You really aren't upset. You hold firm. You aren't mad. You just assumed they needed space, and we're trying to give that to them. Depending on where you are in the relationship, like how far you are into it, they may begrudgingly drop it at this point. If they see that you aren't going to budge, they're going to likely do that to save face. But some of them will keep pushing, insisting that they know you were mad, no matter how much you deny it. They may try insulting you or escalate into more conflict until they get you to admit they were right. Sometimes they'll accept a partial admission as a victory. So if you say, like, maybe I was a little frustrated subconsciously, I'm sorry. That's going to be enough because you just gave them something they can use. But if you're totally sure of yourself and unwilling to allow anyone to convince you of manufactured guilt, even if the claim hits you right on your childhood wounds, they're going to grow tired of you. Very likely, they're going to replace you with someone more jaded. And that's the best case scenario. Because if you stay, this punishment process only escalates. Silent treatment, disappearing, dismissiveness, rejection of affection or withholding affection, mischaracterization, refusal to validate, embarrassing you on purpose in front of your friends, demeaning you, isolating you. Every single emotionally abusive punishment has a link to unhealed trauma. And that's why they work so well when narcissistic people identify and use them. They don't use the ones that don't work. After time, you've been punished so much, it feels like you can't say anything right. You can't do anything right. Even worse, you're right back there, living in your injuries full time. But this time it's worse than it was when they were originally created because most wounds weren't self-inflicted the first time. They were put there by others in charge of us in some way. But this time, you put yourself there. And this is really why a lot of people hang on to these relationships. It's not just that they've invested to the point of being too locked in or they can't see what's going on. It's that ending it means admitting you've let yourself be fooled. You've allowed someone to trick you into the haunted hallway of your past traumas. There's a lot of shame in that. And it's self-shaming, which is the hardest to confront. Narcissistic relationships, it's just what they do to you. They take you back to the worst you've ever felt, and you go willingly. Healthy relationships don't come with these chains. They free you from them. They promote self-love, because when someone truly loves you, they want you to see how good you are. They celebrate you, and even in conflict, they meet you and want to participate and grow. They don't punish you for your feelings. They don't demand compliance in exchange for love. They don't break you down. They build you up. That doesn't just apply to romantic relationships either. That should be the standard for every healthy relationship. So, how do we avoid this altogether? That's the million-dollar question with no clear answer. But I can offer you this. If you've just escaped a relationship with a narcissist or you're in one now, get therapy for yourself. Be completely honest with your therapist. Trauma dump all over them. That's their job. Just do it and be boldly honest. I don't care if you think you've done enough and have confronted everything. You being in this type of relationship proves differently. Your wounds heal in steps. First, they're open wounds. Then they scab over, and then they scar. You need to be all the way at the end, at the scarred over part, before you claim being healed. If your wounds are scarred over, you won't be triggered by them. Not enough to be adequate supply for a narcissist. You'll have self-control and be able to regulate your emotions. You'll be less tolerant of things you shouldn't accept from a partner. You'll call out red flags like bingo numbers. You'll value your peace, your identity, and your individuality. You'll be capable of doing all of this while still understanding what it means to be a good partner. So none of that self-love can be used against you when a narcissist confronts you and tries to claim you're being selfish or only care about your needs and not theirs. You won't fall for it when they leverage guilt for compliance, when they accuse you falsely of creating in them the feelings you've already recovered from. You won't be perfect, no one is, but you can be whole, and that wholeness is like narcissist repellent. Am I saying you'll never be pursued by a narcissist? Absolutely not. You're going to be relentlessly pursued by them because you have a lot to offer. Whole people are shiny. You make them look amazing. But when you don't fall for their game, they will move on to easier prey. That's why you have to be scarred. Being scabbed just won't work. A narcissist will pick every single scab you have until it bleeds again. You have to be scarred. There's no scab to tear off, only thick skin. Before you try to date again, you need to solidify yourself. Chances are you've lost who you are through the nightmare. Therapy can help with that. The rebuilding process is difficult because you have to sort through the rubble and figure out what belongs to you and what doesn't. What's true about you and what was a creation of the narcissist. It's hard to do that on your own. And unless you have someone to help you, it can be lonely and take a really long time. People with unhealed trauma are the ones that need human interaction most. So it's a hard thing for them to resist relationships for very long, especially romantic ones. They have a dependency on them. This is why many of those same people don't just have one narcissistic relationship under their belt, but a trail of several dating all the way back to their parents. If you really want to break the cycle, you have to heal enough. You need to get to the point where you don't need a relationship. You don't need someone else to assign you value. You've already set your price and you never go on sale. You don't compromise your standards just because someone sees your scars and pretends to show you the same ones. You know what authenticity looks like because you yourself are living in authenticity. You expect back what you give. This isn't a fake it till you make it type thing. It has to be real healing. When it's real, if you decide to choose someone to partner with, they'll have to be on your level. They'll have to offer something equivalent to what you offer. And if they all of a sudden offer less, you'll be brave enough to confront them without fear of rejection. Because if they choose to reject you or deflect or shift blame, you won't accept it. And more importantly, you're going to know exactly what they are. And because you don't need that person to make you whole, you're going to walk away with understanding and relief instead of clinging to the imagined future this person fooled you into thinking was real, or that you fooled yourself into thinking was real. So again, healing yourself is the key. We can't always prevent narcissistic people from coming into our lives, but we can learn to love ourselves enough to show them right back out. Thank you for listening to Narcissist or Not with Minister Jessica Hernandez. I hope today's episode brought you clarity and encouragement as you navigate your relationships. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode, and if it helped you, share it with someone who may need it too. To learn more about our church, visit thechurchofspiritualists.com and check out our weekly sermons and homesteading content on YouTube at The Church of Spiritualists. Until next time, guard your peace, honor your worth, and keep walking in truth. God bless.